An ordinary London night. But for Amy Winehouse, everything was about to change. The streets of Camden were alive with their usual chaos. Neon signs flickered against wet pavement. The smell of street food mixed with cigarette smoke. People moved in streams, heading to pubs, clubs, walking home. Just another Thursday night in North London. But sometimes ordinary moments hide extraordinary turning points. And Amy Winehouse was about to walk straight into one. She had left the studio late. Another exhausting session. Her voice raw from hours of recording. The industry wanted more, always more. But tonight she just wanted to walk. To clear her head. To remember why she started making music in the first place. The night air was cold against her skin. She pulled her jacket tighter and kept walking, no destination in mind. Just movement. Just distance from the pressure, the expectations, the constant noise. Then she heard it. A guitar. Simple, clean notes cutting through the street sounds. And then a voice. A male voice, rough around the edges but honest. Singing words she knew better than her own heartbeat. We only said goodbye with words. I died 100 times. Amy Winehouse stopped walking. Because what she heard wasn't just her song. It was her pain, sung back to her by a stranger. The musician sat on a small folding stool near a closed shop. Early 20s, worn clothes, guitar case open at his feet with a few coins inside. His eyes were closed. He wasn't performing. He was feeling. Every word of Back to Black poured out of him like a confession. Amy stood frozen on the sidewalk, 3 meters away. Pedestrians flowed around her, some glancing, most not noticing. But she couldn't move. Because in that moment, she heard something she had forgotten. The raw truth that made her write that song years ago. Before the fame. Before everything became complicated. The young man's voice cracked slightly on the high note. Not from lack of skill. From emotion. Real, unfiltered emotion. She watched his fingers move across the guitar strings. Calloused. Working hands. This wasn't someone playing for fun. This was someone who needed music to survive. She recognized it immediately. Because she used to be exactly like him. The song ended. The musician opened his eyes, took a breath, and reached for his water bottle. That's when he saw her. His face went pale. The water bottle slipped from his hand. No, he whispered. No way. Amy didn't speak. She just stood there, her expression unreadable. The street noise continued around them, but between these two people, there was absolute silence. The musician started, his voice shaking. I wasn't trying to. How long have you been playing here? Amy's voice was quiet but clear. 3 months. Every night. He looked down at his guitar. It's the only place people actually stop and listen. Amy looked at the coins in his case. Maybe £10 total. 3 months of nightly performances for £10. But here's the part no one expected. The part that changed everything. Play it again, Amy said. The musician stared at her. What? Back to Black. Play it again. Okay. His hands trembled as he positioned the guitar. He started the intro, but his nerves made his fingers clumsy. He stopped. Sorry, Don't apologize, Amy said. Just feel it. Like you did before you saw me. He closed his eyes. Took a breath. Started again. This time, the notes came clean. And when he began to sing, his voice steadied. Amy stood listening, and slowly, something in her face changed. The hardness that had built up over years of industry pressure began to crack. When he reached the chorus, Amy's lips moved silently with the words. Her own lyrics. Her own pain. But hearing them from someone else's voice, someone who truly understood them, it hit differently. A small crowd had started to gather. People recognized Amy now. Phones came out. Whispers spread. But she didn't notice any of it. She was completely present in this moment. The musician finished the song. When he opened his eyes, tears were streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them. "I'm sorry," he said again. "This song, it got me through some really dark times. I lost my mum last year. Cancer. And your music was the only thing that made sense." Amy's breath caught. She took a step closer. "What's your name?" "James. James Morrison. Not the famous one," he added with a weak smile. "Just me. James." Amy knelt down beside his guitar case. Her knees on the cold pavement. Right there on the street. "That song was about my pain. But you just showed me it became something bigger than that. It became other people's lifeline." She reached into her bag and pulled out a crumpled pack of cigarettes. Took one out, lit it. Her hands were shaking slightly. "I forgot that," she continued. "I forgot that music isn't about the charts or the awards or any of that industry bullshit. It's about this. Right here. One person's pain meeting another person's pain, and somehow making both of us feel less alone." James didn't know what to say. The crowd around them had grown. Maybe 30 people now, all watching this intimate moment unfold on a Camden street. Amy stood up. "Come with me." "What?" "I'm serious. Come with me. Right now." Where?" "My studio. It's 10 minutes from here." She looked at his guitar case. "Grab your stuff." James couldn't move. This felt like a dream. A very specific, impossible dream. "James," Amy said, and her voice was gentle but firm. "I'm asking you to trust me. Can you do that?" Slowly, shakily, James closed his guitar case, gathered his few belongings, and stood up. The crowd parted as Amy started walking, James following 2 steps behind, his mind racing. They walked in silence for a few minutes. Then Amy spoke without turning around. "You said the song got you through dark times. Tell me about that." "My mom," James started, his voice rough. "She was diagnosed 2 years ago. Stage 4. I dropped out of university to take care of her. Spent every day in that hospital room. And at night, when she was sleeping, I'd sit in the hallway and play guitar. Your songs mostly. She loved your voice." Amy stopped walking. Turned to face him. "She died 3 months ago," James continued. "And I had nothing. No degree. No job. No family left. Just my guitar and your songs. So I started playing on the street. Because I didn't know what else to do. Music was the only thing that made me feel close to her again." Amy Winehouse suddenly made a decision that would shock everyone around her. "You're going to record with me," she said. "Not as a session musician. As a duet. I want your voice on my next album." James laughed. A nervous, disbelieving laugh. "You're joking." "I don't joke about music." Amy started walking again. "I've been in the studio for 6 months trying to capture something real. Something that matters. And I just heard it in your voice on a street corner. That's what I need. That's what my music needs." They arrived at a nondescript building. Amy punched in a code, and they entered. The studio was small but professional. Soundproofed walls. Quality equipment. The space where she had been torturing herself trying to make something perfect. "Sit," Amy said, gesturing to a stool. "Play something. Anything you want." James sat down, his guitar feeling heavier than usual. The weight of this moment was almost unbearable. He started playing the first thing that came to his fingers. An old blues progression. Simple. Honest. Amy listened. After a minute, she picked up a second guitar from the corner and joined in. Their guitars found each other, creating a conversation without words. Then Amy started to sing. Not Back to Black. Something new. Improvised lyrics about loss, about finding beauty in broken things, about 2 strangers meeting in the dark and making light. James listened, his fingers still moving on the guitar. And when Amy paused, he picked up the melody and continued it. His voice blending with hers, not perfectly polished, but emotionally true. They played for 20 minutes straight. No stopping. No overthinking. Just pure, unfiltered creation. When they finally stopped, both were breathing hard. Amy's eyes were bright, alive in a way they hadn't been in months. "This," she said. "This is what I've been missing." She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Mark?" "Yeah, it's me. I need you at the studio. Now. I don't care what time it is. I've found something." She hung up and looked at James. "That was my producer. He's going to lose his mind, but I don't care. We're doing this." Over the next 30 minutes, people arrived. Her producer, initially skeptical. Her sound engineer. Her manager, who looked like she wanted to object but stayed quiet after hearing them play together. They recorded 3 songs that night. Raw, emotional, imperfect. Everything that Amy's overproduced recent work had been missing. At 4 a.m., exhausted but electrified, Amy walked James back out to the street. The night had given way to early morning. London was quiet now, holding its breath before the rush of a new day. Subscribe and share this story, because what happens next will blow your mind. "James," Amy said, "what you did tonight wasn't charity. I didn't help you. You helped me. You reminded me why I started doing this." She pulled a guitar pick from her pocket. It was worn, the design almost rubbed away. "This was the pick I used when I recorded the original Back to Black. I want you to have it." James took it carefully, like it might disappear if he held it too tight. "Keep playing," Amy continued. "On the streets, in studios, wherever. But keep playing. Because your voice matters. Your pain matters. And turning that pain into something beautiful? That's the most important thing any of us can do." 3 months later, Amy Winehouse released a single that shocked the industry. It wasn't a solo track. It was a duet with an unknown street musician named James Morrison. The song was called "Meeting in the Dark." It wasn't a commercial hit. It didn't top the charts. But it became something more important. It became the song that reminded people why they fell in love with Amy Winehouse in the first place. Her vulnerability. Her truth. Her ability to see beauty in broken things. Music critics called it her most honest work in years. Fans called it a masterpiece. But for Amy, it was simpler than that. It was a reminder that music was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be real. James Morrison continued to play on the streets of Camden, but now with a recording contract in his pocket and a guitar pick in his case that reminded him every day that pain can become art, and art can become connection. The story of that night spread. Not through press releases or publicity stunts, but through the people who were there. The 30 witnesses who saw Amy Winehouse kneel on cold pavement and remember what mattered. Years later, after Amy was gone, James would tell this story in interviews. Always carefully. Always with respect. And he would end it the same way. "She saved my life that night. But I think maybe I saved hers too, even if just for a moment." We reminded each other that music isn't about being the best. It's about being real. And reality is messy and painful and beautiful all at once. But there's more to the story. Something James rarely talks about. 2 weeks after that recording session, Amy called him at 2 a.m. She was struggling. The pressure was back. The industry wanted her to remove his voice from the track to make it more commercial. They said a duet with an unknown would hurt sales. "What should I do?" she asked him. Her voice small, uncertain. James didn't hesitate. "Tell them to go to hell. That song is real. Don't let them turn it into another product." Amy laughed. A real laugh. "You sound like me. Maybe that's why we found each other," James replied. The song stayed as it was. Unpolished. Imperfect. Real. When Amy performed it live for the first time, she invited James on stage. He stood there, terrified, in front of thousands. But when they sang together, something magical happened. The audience didn't just hear a song. They felt a connection. They witnessed 2 broken people making something beautiful from their pain. The guitar pick sits in a frame now. Not in a museum or a collection, but on James's wall, where he sees it every day before he writes. Next to it is a photo from that night. Amy and James on stage, both smiling, both free. A reminder that ordinary nights can become extraordinary. That pain can meet pain and create something beautiful. That a stranger's voice can change your life if you're brave enough to stop and listen. And somewhere in the catalog of Amy Winehouse's legacy, there's a song that sounds different from all the others. Rougher. Less polished. More human. A duet between a superstar and a street musician who met in the dark and made light. The streets of Camden still remember that night. Musicians still play. Back to Black. On those same corners. And sometimes, if you listen carefully, you can hear the echo of two voices meeting in the darkness, reminding us all that music was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be true. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because Amy's message lives on. Your pain matters, your voice matters, and you never know when an ordinary night might change everything.